All right, welcome everybody. We are back. Attempt number 7. So we are joining the War for Arrakis tournament finals. This is game 3 between Alexei and Serge. Both have one win as Harkonnens. I am joining late to the party. They're playing very early here. Had an alarm slip through it. So, snoozy wombat this morning. The beginning of the turn here. This is turn 1. The bid was 3. So, meaning Alexei gave Serge 3 points to start. One of each yellow, red, and green. So that's the advantage that Serge had. Now he started with some pretty great objectives here. Green, the Paul Water of Life, and the Sayadina. I like both of those to start. He's executed the Sayadina. He has picked up 2 eco stations. Alexei has played Fade, beloved Fade Routha on turn 1, and deployed Fade instead of the Baron, and took a siege to start. It looks like there was some combat, which probably wore this down slightly. Sandworms have come out. There were 2 harvesters saved. No, 2 harvesters saved. Spacing has gone down. We're about to enter turn 2. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not watched the tournament, any of the recorded games, they're very fun. We don't have a huge streaming group on. We don't have a. We don't have a large streaming group, so it's just me. And there's the contingency of Dune players is different than the contingency of Rebellion players. There's a lot of overseas. Well, I guess they're not overseas to each other. I guess I'm overseas. There's a lot of European, Russian, Poland contingencies that play this game. In fact, there's a whole mod that translates everything into Russian that's fully scripted and pretty nice. Okay, round 2. We have Chowhada, Yahya Chowhada. That's a great one. That's one you always want to see. The only downside is that we spent our efforts doing Sayadina, so the main leaders are not in super convenient places for that. Will depend on what sort of cards the Atreides player has. Now, both of these players have won, I think, 3 elimination matches going into this. And I think both had either perfect or near perfect records going into it. So these are very strong players. I have played Serge a couple of times that I can recall. I don't remember what my split was. I think I've played Alexei 3 times, maybe in 1-1, something along that lines. Again, it's hard for me to line up my game schedule with this group's schedule, but I do what I can. So, all right, just a quick stream health. If anybody wants to drop a chat and say hello in the chat, I will try to include some folks in this since I'm just watching. I feel like I'm fairly caught up now, so most likely there was a Atreides or a Heart Death Ball with Fade placed here. There was probably an attack to eliminate somebody, another move, and an attack with Fade, perhaps. This would be 1, 2, so only 2 dice to get there. 2 cards. The fur's out. Okay, very good. Turn 1 Fade is rough. Rough for the Atreides. Fade is especially deadly in the early phases because his leader dice is move and attack, but it's not move and surprise attack. A lot of the times in later games, when you're trying to deal with the Atreides player, you need a surprise attack to eliminate an Atreides death ball, but early on you almost never do. So being able to use a single dice for Fade's move and attack is great. Okay, initial deployment, Chani into Siege Hopper's Gap. Great. If he manages to get Tahati Challenge scored, you can also upgrade Paul into Muad'Dib and then use these leader dice to do a move and attack. The most likely move he'll try to execute is Worm Sign, attack the North Pole, score this, and probably also maybe murder Paul for Tahati Challenge. Or use Paul to murder or Stilgar. Yeah, that's Stilgar for Tahati Challenge. That will upgrade Paul to Muad'Dib. Very deadly looking for the Atreides. Harks are at 3 supremacy marker. They obviously need to get to 10. And it'll be easier to do with Gaius. So Gaius is out now. Both Gaius and Fade early is brutal, man. Okay. So Gaius draws 2, plays 1. You'll see Alexi. This is a very strong Hark strategy where you just stack up the cards. Cards are the way I think of combat, or these both the Hark cards and the Carino planning cards. The way I like to think of them is they're really like a dice and a half, right? They usually give a action that a dice does and something else. So like move 3 armies instead of move 2. Or deploy an ornithopter and then move an army, right? Like a dice and a half sort of thing. So the more cards you can accumulate, the more options you have if you roll bad dice. And this isn't bad dice, but you'll see he's short on deploy. So things like this, place 2 regulars, an elite, and a Bashar in the North Pole, give that action, and then also discard all Worm Sign. Now, he didn't want to wait for Worm Sign to come out to do that, because in case there's a Worm Sign and attack card with Paul Muad'Dib, which is the leader's ability here, take a desert power and then make a surprise attack, you can see that North Pole is within range of Chani already. Now, a positive is the double elite has been discovered and revealed for the Atreides. There's only one of these to start. And you can see, so most likely Chani is on a single regular and a single elite, possibly a 2 regular, but we know she's not on a double elite. And then there's an Atreides deployment on there as well. The only Atreides deployment that's been revealed is a mid-grade one, so this could be double Fadakin or it could be double regular. It's not likely double regular since he used Chani's ability to look at 2, so it's probably a good one. But so he's going to Worm Sign out and then score 3 red immediately, which is just what a combo, guys. Yep, okay. So not a super strong deployment card. So he has 0 Fadakin, but 2 regulars, 2 elites, no real cards. I mean, he's got 3 in his hand, but usually you don't want to play those. So he's just hoping for a single hit here. It is a surprise attack, so he does start with one attack. But if Alexi rolls shields, this could go sideways. Okay, he discards 2 Fremen cards I saw. So he'll roll 6 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very good. Wow. Very lucky. All right. Just enough to get it done. Yeah, that's too many. So he's got 7 minus 5 is 2. 2 to 0. 2 hits for the Harks. That will gain this. Chauhara. And then 1, 2, 3. That'll also bring a Leia into play and put him 1 away from atomics. Okay, this is a very strong start for Atreides. That's not super uncommon What the Hark player is going to need to do here is a couple of things. You either need to turn on the gas and go, or you need to really put the thumb screws on and try to mitigate the damage that the Atreides player can do. So he's scored 2 objectives this turn. He cannot score a third. He may not have a jihad objective. All right. Back. The connection, again, we're overseas, so not the best in the world. Try to rejoin here. Okay. Back at it. All right, a couple of comments in the chat. All right. All right. A couple of comments. This was scored. We haven't claimed it yet. Why has that not been claimed yet? I don't know. Maybe the connection died during the roll? I'm not sure. Oh, I see. They're just resetting it. Okay, so it died for everybody is what happened here. So we're back online now. Perfect. Thank you, sir. My analytics are saying 0 people are online, so something is a little bit goofy. We're just doing everything difficult today is how we're doing it. All right, so back. Good. Okay, Aaliyah is out. At least polar caps did not fall. And we are using Fade to flip this siege. So it's a double move, 1-2 with the Ornithopter, and then a regular attack on this siege. So it will be 5 versus 5 without a surprise attack. Discarding Hard Times and Oppression. All right, that's pretty good. 1 hit. Okay, 1 hit, 1 press, 4 dice, no discard against 4 dice. Yeah, can't afford to discard an Atreides card probably. This is the gamble that Alexi is choosing to go with, which what I was talking about before the disconnect is you've got kind of 2 options when the Atreides start looking like this. Ooh, discarding Usul. Okay, that's not a super strong one, but that is not what he was hoping for. Okay, 2-1. Bummer. Now he's got to go. I think he needed to discard there. I mean, obviously hindsight, right? So now we're 2v3. The Atreides player cannot discard, but he could roll 2-3 hits. Oh, okay, a stop. Okay, maybe he's got to deploy an attack. The Harks do have a few dice, so that's okay. Yeah, maybe fine. Maybe he doesn't need to go all out here. Over in the Spice War area, one comment on here asking if I've played Desert War. I have not. My preferred way to play is base. I'm also warming up to base plus smugglers. I do not care for Spacing Guild. The contingency of European and Russian players prefer base plus smugglers. They feel like that balances out pretty well. I'll trust them at that since they're advancing further in this tournament than I. All right. Yes, audios. No audio coming through. Testing. Let me check the stream here. Let me try somebody on Discord. Yeah, okay, good. Okie dokie. Uh-oh, might be disconnecting again here. Well, okay, looks like we came through again. All right, dice remaining. So we have Aaliyah, which could be used if I were the Atreides player. I would use the Aaliyah dice to discard the surprise attack. I feel like that would be helpful here. So I think I would use Aaliyah. Oh, but he doesn't have any planning cards left. Yep. I don't know if I'd do it for that then. Maybe I'd deploy. So here's the tricky part with the Atreides player at this point. So you need to do a couple of things. If you're lined up, let's say you're lined up with Jihad objective and things are working out in your favor, you likely need 2 or 3 more points. Okay, so you've got a couple of eco stations. So you've got, one within range here, one within range here, one that you're already connected to here, but your eco stations are already pulled out for red. So the alternative is you need sieges. Not an easy thing to do because you don't have a death ball going. You do have Stilgar, but you'll notice Alexei already is positioning troops nearby to do 2 things. One, to take a siege, also to mitigate the damage that Stilgar can do if he starts to deploy units on there. So I suspect if he does use this wild to deploy, then Alexei will likely attack the large siege here to try to whittle that group down, because you always have to think about what the threat is from the Atreides player. And right now, they're not threatening to take any sieges. They're not threatening to crush anything. And we're deploying. Okay, that's an interesting strategy. I'm not sure I would have done that, but also I'm not in the finals, so we'll just go with that. Double move for Alexei. 1 retreating with Fade, and another to push past Stilgar. Okay. Very good. And now we're just to Worm Sign here. Nope, maybe not. Okay, he's going to prepare. Okay, these harvesters are relatively safe. Yeah, we forgot a Bene Gesserit during the reboot. It looks like he got one for Gaius. Explosive artillery. Okay, there we go. So he changed from double move to explosive artillery, and he did that with this Ornithopter. Okay, rolled 4 hits, eliminated the siege. I think he's got to remove the Ornithopter. Yep. Okay. And then Sandworm's coming out to deal with Fade. Interesting. I mean, there's not a whole lot of other options, right? Otherwise, you just fill in this gap with sand tokens and hope worm spawn is the other strategy, but I think this is more useful. And that's a very nice move. All right, he explosive artilleried, took the missing siege, advanced into it, pulled a 3. Only 2 sieges have been found, value 6. Okay, Sandworm trying to finish off Fade. Big roll here, ladies and gentlemen. 1, 2. Okay, 1 guy left. Very good. Okay, so 2 left. He's going to deploy harvesters. Look at that. I didn't expect that to come out. Plop him in the deep desert, I suppose. Yep, 1 there. 1 there. He's saying, please don't. Moving a Sandworm again. Okay. Final dice is double leader move. Okay, prepping an Arrakis and just bypassing Stilgar altogether. Okay, very good. Got a lot of worm sign to deploy here. Let me flip over to the chat real quick. Yeah, with Fade being out of commission, that's going to make things difficult for. It's going to make things difficult for maneuvering. I think Harks have enough dice. It looks like they had a very healthy harvester there. Spice harvest. 1 worm eating 1 harvester. All guilds are happy. All dice are returned to the Harks. We have a Bene Gesserit available. I mean, Fade's coming back out this turn for sure. So with both 3s discovered, it means if they find 2 2-strength sieges, they might be okay here. This might be a turn where you use harvesters or you use ornithopters to scout. We know 1, 2 is here. We know there are 2 1s. So most of these are going to be 2s. We also see Alexei has a huge stack of cards right now compared to Serge, who should have 2. This is a good card to have. This card is specifically a pain to deal with because there is a Atreides card that you can play to attach to any objective, and it gives you 2 points of your choice if that objective is scored. So a common tactic is to play it on Family's Flee, because it's basically if you happen to draw that card, it's basically a 4-point objective that's almost automatic to score. Now, in this particular situation, there's no deployment token that he could execute, but it's not that hard to have an opportunity to do so. It can be expensive, but we know he's already deployed his good starting deployment token, so the rest of these are all kind of mid. He's got one up at the top, one up at the right. See how it is. He also has sand riding, which is pretty reasonable to score. Um, but again, objectives need either a 9 or a 10 to win. So I think he's probably, hopefully, on for Surge, he's hopefully on a Jihad objective and draws into that card, because then he could max it. I mean, that could win him the game. So Alexi's got to be very thoughtful about that card. That's his like lose condition at the moment. Now it's difficult to deal with because you typically need to get Harks near a siege to take it. But it's possible to do, right? For example, let's say you were trying to attack Stilgar's siege, you could do it from here and never be victim to Family's Flee. All right. Let's check out the dice rolls here. Wild. Mentat. Very good with Reverend Mother. This is pretty good. This is a pretty good situation. I think you'd like one less leader, one more deploy. Over on the Hark side, we went with double card draw, right? Alexi's all in on card draw here instead of another attack. Fade is not actually eligible for deployment here because he's in the tank. I'm not going to micromanage the game, but I'll just point it out if somebody stumbles into it. There's a reasonable chance with all the Carino cards getting drawn that Alexi will draw into the double Emperor deploy and then move an attack card, which would be great for the Harks to have, especially because you're worried about Family's Flee. But we'll see. I would give the edge to the Harks at this point, but just barely. All right. What do you do if you're Atreides, right? It's hard to know because we don't know their cards. Can't search the trash. I can't see if he tossed any. If you're Atreides, I think you probably open with a worm attack or a surprise attack on this group up here. But I don't know. The hard part with Atreides at this point is unless your objectives and your missions are lining up perfectly, you can't really afford to play defensively because you have a disadvantage on combat cards and you have a disadvantage on dice. You are pretty even on leaders, right? Gaius and Reverend Mother and Fade and Muad'Dib, Chani and the Emperor, designed to be offsetting, but that doesn't really work that way. So leaders, I would say, are equal. Momentum has shifted to the Harks, I feel like. Alexi probably disagrees if he's listening to this stream. And if you're listening to this stream, you really shouldn't be. So there's that. There's still some eco stations on the board, but there haven't been much effort to get them, right? We could have, I feel like if Surge was holding on to green and yellow objectives, instead of moving worms around, he would have been placing worm sign to improve the chances of worms coming out in places he needs them, like one here to grab an eco station, maybe here and here to grab this eco station. I think there were more useful places for worm signs. So I suspect he's sitting on a jihad objective. Now this card here is not going to get scored because you can't afford to have Paul Muad'Dib hanging out in the deep desert for no good reason. If he's attacking a siege, sure, but there's only a couple of sieges you can attack from the deep desert. So I don't anticipate much of that happening. This one's reasonable to score. Sand right into an empty area. It's not efficient, but it's reasonable to score. Like, so for example, you could just score that now if you wanted to, but again, it's kind of a waste of a dice, but at least it's not a waste of 2 dice. And then again, families flee. Just a auto score. Objectives that you can score in the middle of the match are nice because otherwise you have to wait till the end of the turn to try to win, unless you're taking Arrakis. So this is going to be the reason Serge is thinking so much here is I believe it's because he's identified this is the turn that he needs to do this on. With Gaius, anytime Gaius is out, especially when a Bene Gesserit token is placed on Mentat instead of an attack in this scenario, what that suggests to me is that he either needs cards or has the cards. Well, that's the only 2 options there. What it suggests to me is he's saying, hey, I don't need attacks because my cards are good. I'm just going to keep drawing more cards so I can get 2 sieges under control this turn. I suspect he has a plan to get this siege here, and then I suspect his second plan is to move Arrakis to attack Paul's siege out on Sahaya Ridge. He can do that by doing a single attack here and then doing Fade's attack on Sahaya. And you can see there's no deployment dice here, only 1 house dice. And holding onto your house dice is risky when Alexei has all these Carino cards, because he might just have the Carino card that removes a house dice. And he could trade one of his house dice to remove an Atreides house dice, and that would be an amazing trade for him. Especially when he could combine that with drawing 2 cards and then playing that card. Like, this is where Gaius becomes such a pain to deal with as the Atreides. All right, so what are some options for the Atreides player? What would I be thinking about as the Atreides player? Again, full well knowing I didn't even make the cutoffs for the tournament, so take it all with a grain of salt. Again, we talked about scoring planning. If you don't have the cards you need here, you might consider opening with a Hail Mary to draw 2 cards for a few reasons. If they're bad cards, they're useful as combat card discards. There's a reasonable chance you draw something that is decent to play. And also it's a way of sort of deferring and saying, pass, you go first, without playing Worm Sign. The other thing I would consider strongly doing is attacking with a Sandworm into this, into that Harkonnen pile over here. Chances are you score at least 2 hits, and because he won't want to get rid of his Sardaukar, that would drain it to like a 3 strength unit, which means if he did attack, he'd need to discard dice or discard cards, and that's kind of what you're hoping to do, is at least even yourself out on some of those advantages, and that Sandworm is not going to be super functional otherwise. So if you're looking for more of a pass maneuver, I think that's what I would do. Otherwise, you need to try to seize the initiative and go crazy, right? I mean, you could try attacking polar cap factories with Muad'Dib, for example, and Chani. You don't have a strong group. you don't have a lot of cards to discard, and you're leaving a siege open. So, like, that doesn't seem great. Again, you could play for eco stations, but based on how the worm signs were placed at the end of last round, I don't think that is likely to happen. Okay, house dice first. He's going to force a discard of a dice. And he chooses Fade's dice. Fine. He then plays this card. If a Harkonnen Legion is within 2 areas of siege, place a deployment token on that siege, then draw a planning card. Great. I think that's a perfect card there. He's got to draw a card, and he has not. Surge, need to draw a card. Now, technically, the way the rules read is you can ignore any part of the card. So, in theory, and this is a tournament game, and we have new information here. So, in theory, it's not mandatory. So, that's unfortunately kind of a missed opportunity there. Okay, Alexei drew 2 and played spotter control to discard 3 worm signs which don't exist and then draw 2 more cards. So he's dialing for dollars here. Probably for the Emperor's card would be my guess. Fade is moved up. Yeah, tough spot for Surge. Needed that replacement card, I think. So now he could score Families Fled, because he's placed a deployment card in an area where there's a Harkonnen Okay, double Fadekin. That's the big boy deployment token. There is also a couple single Fadekin deployment tokens in there as well. Okay, surprise attack with Chani. That is going to be a nasty one there. Yep. Okay. Yeah, so 1 Sardaukar, 2 Fadekin. So block 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. That keeps 1 regular in play. And 1 back. Need to take 1 casualty over here because he had a Sardaukar. Okay. Scout, yep, was predicting some of that. And then he has 1 more to deploy. I think he searches Paul's siege. Yeah, I think he's also pretty confident that one's a 2. Yep. Okay, fair. Good to check, though, because, again, kind of limited dice. Okay, back to Atreides player. I think you gotta be drawing for Atreides cards. Although you can no longer score Families Fled. All right, checking chat. Families Flee would also open up atomics by red. That's correct. Yep. Atomics is less powerful here on some level because there's not a major Atreides death ball outside of here. So these atomics are generally less valuable than this atomic. The advantage to this atomic in Rimwall is that if Arrakeen is abandoned, he could snipe it with this unit here. So there's a couple of things good about atomics up in Rimwall. Otherwise, it just allows you to get into Haga Basin or Imperial Basin a little bit easier. He opted to not use Paul's surprise attack ability here. Okay, there's a 2 strength there. That's fine. Also, that's the other big boy token. Combined with a double regular makes that not super scary. But I would classify Chani's group as a death ball here, which is not going to be easy to deal with. If that turns into a attack into polar cap factories, that pushes everybody else up 1, and then that becomes a nice staging ground for everything else. However, you have a lurker Harkonnen here that could pose a little bit of a problem if this siege is fully abandoned. A 1, accidentally taking a 1 is bad because it's basically like doing nothing because there are no more 3s left on the board. And if you take a single 1, you need to take the other 1 to be 2 away. So that's why Alexei is leaning on scouting here. The question is Surge the type of player to deploy units on a 1 siege because he plans on abandoning it, or is he a type of player that deploys on a 2 siege because that also defends it? The Stilgar move here suggests that maybe that is the deployment is the right strategy. I have not played Surge enough to know, but we've deployed to defend a 2 siege. We've deployed to defend a 2 siege. Most likely we've deployed to defend a 2 siege. So if I had to guess at this point, I would say Rock Outcroppings in the north is more likely to be a 1 siege than Hobart Gap. To be determined, though. Difficult decisions to be made here. 2 deployment dice, which likely will be used for cards, is my guess. 1 Mentat, which I guess that will be used for cards for sure, at least one of them. And then 2 regular attacks, and Aaliyah has disrupted Fade's dice. Maybe you deploy in North Pole, get a Sardaukar in there, spread some regulars out to sort of fill in some of the gaps. But yeah, Harks have lost some momentum. The Atreides are working on building it. Again, I think that 1 missing card draw is going to come back to haunt them. This game of Dune typically lasts 3 turns, is kind of the exchange. Games are often decided on turn 3, sometimes turn 4, very rarely turn 2 or turn 5. That's kind of my experience. More likely turn 5 than turn 2, but Atreides player has 3 dice. Harks have 5, so there will be 2 sand maneuvers in here. That could be either placing worm sign or attacking with the 1 worm that is out here. Third Dune, the movie trailer has dropped recently. I've got a Dune story for y'all. So I just came back from Phoenix, Arizona For any Americans watching here, y'all probably know where that is. If not, it's basically the modern day equivalent of Arrakis. Landed there, got into the hotel, got a warning on my phone. And actually, I'll just read you the warning because this is hilarious. Got a warning on my phone that says the following. Yes. Dust storm warning. Be ready for drop to zero visibility. Pull aside and stay alive. When visibility drops, you must park your vehicle, turn the lights off, keep your foot on the brake. Infants, elderly, and those with respiratory issues encouraged to take increased precautions. More increased precautions than just the stay alive exclamation point warning. So I landed, and I come from a temperate area up in Seattle where the average summer temperature is like 76 degrees. Get out of the plane, it's 111 outside Fahrenheit, which is, I don't know, that's like a lot of Celsius, I think. What is 111 Fahrenheit converted to Celsius? Yeah, 111, which is what it was when I landed before the dust storm, is the 44 degrees Celsius. So crazy hot, right? Dust storm warning. Had to get to the Uber driver was like, all right, need to get you to the hotel quick. Got into the hotel. It went from day to like night. It was like being in that ornithopter. I mean, I wasn't getting thrown around or anything, but like it went from day to night. Sky turned like a dark orange. Lightning bolts everywhere. It was like a storm, super windy, rain. I don't know. I was like, where am I? Real life Dune. Who knew? Anyway, humans should not live in Phoenix, Arizona. So if you ever want to come to America and you're overseas right now, don't go to Phoenix. Come to Seattle instead. All right, that's the end of my story there. What have we decided to do here? Nothing. All right, fair. Stilgar, 3 moves or 1 attack? 1 attack with a regular attack. Okay, I like that. So I think the thought process here is let's win this attack, get a point, blow atomics, do a Paul attack to put you in Haga Basin. Now you're threatening Arakeen, and you're 1 away from winning with Family's Flee. Maybe. All right. A massive roll here. Holy cow. That's exactly what you want on a non-surprise attack. I mean, you'd like a special, but here we go. All right. 3 units and an elite in Carthag. Okay. Played a deployment dice instead of the Mentat dice for that. That's fine. Again, dice and a half, right? Named leader. He's got fade out. Very nice. Otherwise, he could have played fade. He could have played a deployment dice for fade. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I would have liked that better with the Sardaukar. Whatever. It's fine. He still has his deployment dice special available. So, seems reasonable. Okay. 4 dice for Harks, left for 2 dice with Atreides. Now, the question is, does he blow the dice and go into Imperial Basin? Again, he cannot score Family Flees unless Alexei makes a mistake. It gets too close to a siege with the deployment token on there. The other question is this a bluff or is that real life? I don't know. It went about as well as he could have hoped. Still has both Vatican there. Okay, move in the Sandworm. Back to Alexi's turn. Okay. Very curious as to what Alexi does here. It's uncommon for him to take more than, in the games I've played, it's uncommon for him to take more than 10 to 15 seconds to think about his turn. The 3 games, or 2 or 3 games I think I played with Alexi, I tend to play very fast too. Our games, like I think the first game was like 3 turns and went in like 35 minutes or something. it was fun. It was a very fast paced game. I think we were trying to outspeed each other. While we're waiting for this turn, well, no, we'll just hang out and watch this turn. Okay. Mentat, I assume to play a card. And I wonder when we're going to see the Emperor card. There's only 9 Carino cards left. Baron's personal guard. Okay, we're loading units in Carthage. And now this is what I mean by a like a dice and a half. So it's deploying. It's a good deploy, and then also a single move, right? So where is he going to make the push? The most logical place is either going to be Shava Ridge into Stilgar's camp over here, or rock outcroppings and be risky. But these are not obvious choices. I think he goes to Broken Land. If he goes to Broken Land, I actually don't know. You also kind of got to worry about Chani. Like maybe you just go to Imperial Basin. That seems bad too. The Eco Station, kind of mid. Eco Station commits you to Hobar's Gap, and then going over to this lodge over here, and you just don't have the dice for that this turn. Now you will next turn, but this move is, even though it's a single move with the Baron in the middle of the map, it's actually very critical. That's honestly why I like this game so much. Like, very minor decisions make very... Oh. Okay. I wonder if this play is... He moves large... No. Nope. I am not actually sure what's happening here. Okay, so he moved the Sardaukar from Arrakeen into... He moved the Sardaukar from Arrakeen into Carthage with an elite to stack that unit up better. Okay. You do, Grandmother of Storm, indeed. Yep. Okay, so do you have to blow the atomics when you hit 8, or at any time you're at 8 or after? You can use it any time 8 or after. So you can hold on to atomics for the right time. Okay. So Alexius said, look, I'm not winning it this turn. I'm going to have one big boy army. I don't have any house dice to upgrade my regulars. I need some extra power, so I'm going to make Carthage like a legitimate death ball here. I think he'd like one more Sardaukar in the mix, which is surprising to me why he didn't use the deployment instead. Deployment, you could have just added a Sardaukar. You wouldn't have had the Baron, but the Baron's not that useful for an attack, in my opinion. I don't know. It's fine. Maybe he played the card and then changed his mind partway through about what the strategy was going to be. Again, it's not super obvious what needs to be done here. This guy doesn't have a functional way of getting to that open siege because he's not next to, not next to a ornithopter. Okay, back to Surge. Interesting. Take a moment to pull up the challenge. Let's see if I can find the Arrakis finals here. We've got, I'm in a Rebellion tournament as well right now, but I think I've got the Dune one saved up here. It was fun. We did a elimination phase. There were like, I don't know, 14 people or so maybe that signed up, and then maybe 16, and top 8 made it, maybe right around there. I ended up with 4 wins and 4 losses, and a couple others had 4 wins and 4 losses too, but there was a tiebreaker, like a strength of victory tiebreaker, that I did not clear. So that's fine. That happens. Everybody knew what the rules were. But let's see what the tournament was. Actually, we'll go back. Okay, Sandworm cleaning off the last Harkonnen player, 1 hit. Very good. Again, supporting the notion that maybe this is a 2 strength. Okay, 1 action dice and Hope Cloud. Shuffle a Prescience card back into the deck. Okay. So interestingly, he shuffled the Sand Riding objective back into the deck. Okay. So at this point, it's 2-2. So we're either going to be drawing 2 cards and playing one, or we're going to be doing Paul's ability. I suspect we're going to draw 2 and play 1. There's a little bit of a weird nuance here that's worth pointing out. If you play the Mentat dice, you need to pick. Oh, it actually doesn't matter. Because you could pick the bottom and then choose not to execute the bottom. So yeah, you'd always execute the bottom. But I think you draw 2 Atreides cards. You're probably looking for Voice from Beyond or something. Play something where, yeah. See, the tough part, and Alexi's playing this pretty well, because let's say you get Chani into Imperial Basin, and then you have Voice from Beyond or something. With an Ornithopter here, Fade could attack out, or you could even, if you prefer to go a different route, you could choose to deploy Gaius into Arrakeen with a Sardaukar and a couple of regulars and load that up pretty decently. I would probably opt for the offensive option, but hard to know depending on cards. All right, let me see if I can get Challenge to load here. I don't see an obvious spot to attack otherwise. There are actually 3 objectives that have been scored over here. Is the Sayadina's under here. All right, the battle for the sands was the elimination phase. So let me pop over there real quick, and then we'll come back to... Let me see if I can do this without breaking everything. Pretty sure I'm going to break everything. Let's do... Let's try this one up here. Yeah, that's good. Not quite. Nope, never mind. All right. I'll have to learn some fancy skills here later on that. I will just tell you Battle of the Sands. So Alexei ended up the elimination round 5-0, meaning he won 5 matches, best of 3. He defeated Futil, and he defeated him 2-0. I defeated him 2-1. And then Surge defeated Jaded 2-0 in round 1. My round 1, I lost to Ilmare 0-2. Round 2, I defeated Futil 2-1. Alexei defeated Ilmare, who I lost to 2-0, and Serge Serge defeated Idwadi, who 2-0. He's a very strong player there too. Round 3, I defeated Blue Bandit 2-0. Surge defeated Selwith 2-1. And then Alexei defeated Your Dear Brother 2-0. Okay. Round 4, Alexei defeated Vase, a former champion, 2-0. A former War of the Ring champion, too, I think. I lost to Idwadi 0-2, again, who was defeated by Surge, so this is all making sense. Surge defeated Elmare, who beat me 2-0. And then that was round 4. And so round 5, Alexei and Surge played each other, and Alexei won 2-0 on that. So that was the preview of how this looked. And then I defeated Cell with 2-0. So I ended up in the so Alexei ended up 5-0. Surge ended up 4-1. And then I ended up 3-2, tied with a number of other people, but did not clear the elimination. All right, I'm going to hop back to the game here real quick. We are still thinking fair. And then after the we called that the Battle of the Sands, right? So that was the start of who was going, like kind of the Swiss format for who was going to play in the finals. And so now after that, the follow-up was here we go. We got to move. Okay. Rimwall blown. Paul's ability being used to take Imperial Basin. Okay. 1 point for everything. And then a counterattack, single strength. 1 block, it is dead. Oh, and they did that with Fade in an Ornithopter. Ornithopter has to be removed. One of them. That is a non-optional rule. Okay. Final play to draw 2 cards and optionally play 1. All right, so the elimination phase, Alexei played NRKA and defeated him 2-1. Vase defeated Jaded 2-0. So then Alexei played Vase and defeated Vase 2-1. On the other end of the bracket, Surge defeated Your Dear Brother 2-0. Ilmare lost to Eldwade 2-1. And then Surge beat Idwade 2-1. So that's why we have Alexei versus Surge. And now you know the story of Dune War for Arrakis. The end. Which card to play? Do wish I knew what objective he had. And disconnected from the server. Sorry, guys. Try to rejoin. All right, we're back. How to win? I don't know. I don't actually know what the game plan for either folks are. Seems fairly obvious that Surge doesn't have it in the bank. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't be thinking as critically here. Maybe there, but what's the game plan for Alexi here? I don't know. It's got to be Stilgar Paul, right? Okay. Place one named leader into the regeneration tank and then draw 2 cards. Is he going to draw Atreides? I assume so. Again, he's 1 card behind. Oh, is he going to pull Fremen cards? That's fascinating. Okay. Sometimes you pull Fremen cards if you need something very specific. Sometimes you pull them if you're planning on needing to discard junky cards for a battle. Yeah, so Alexi was attempting to deploy on Imperial Basin and cannot because Imperial Basin is not a settlement anymore. Okay, there's your other 2. That's kind of what we suspected with the deploys. Okay, Chani going back and being replaced out. Interesting. Stilgar and Paul staying in place. Lexi's been doing well with Spice, that's for sure. Okay. Worm up in right next to Arrakis is nice. Whew. See if he keeps families fleeing or not. Okay. No change to Spacing Guild down. Okay. Okay, hand sizes are similar again. Leaders similar. We're kind of at an even match here. Going into turn. Is this turn 4? Yeah, I think so. Turn 1, then turn 2 was played down. Turn 3 was played up. This is turn 4. Yep. All right, quite the game. The question is, can the Harks get 2 more sieges, or Family's Flea did not get discarded? That makes me think he needs 1 more point. 1 more red point. How are you going to get that? Maybe you get it through Haga Basin. Maybe you get it through Family's Flea. Maybe you get it through Arrakis. But you're going to need to survive this entire turn in order to pull that off. Attacks 4, but Aaliyah's here, so assume Aaliyah's going to wipe Fade's dice off the map probably immediately would be my guess. Because you want to limit the Harkonnen's ability to move around. It's worth noting Paul can immediately go into Arrakis as well. With his... Oh, he doesn't... Well, with Aaliyah's dice, I guess he could. Very interesting options here. I'm going to take a quick break and be right back. Sorry, guys. Had to get some coffee on the pot. It is entirely too early to be coffee free. Oh, what did we miss? We missed drawing cards and playing Shai Halud. Oh my god, Godzilla. I love it. I love when Shai Halud pops out of the atomics because it's just the Godzilla move. It's great. Okay, and we discarded. Oh no. What did we do with the? Somebody help me out. What did we do with the Atreides house dice? We used Aaliyah to discard a deployment. Fascinating. Okay, all right. I mean, Gaius is holding Arakeen on lockdown. Paul can't take that yet. Move a siege to an empty desert area. Okay, yep. He says, nope, you're not going to get me. I'm out. Okay. Draw 2, play 1. Double deployments left. Okay, there's rage and rage again. So you use 1 to enter play, then you use the other to place 2 Sardaukar in any legion, and then move an attack. So he's going to attack Paul's siege here. So he's going to use Ornithopter to get next to Paul, and then attack it, I think. The tough part here is, let's say he moves and attacks Paul's siege. Then the next play can be deployment, and then families flee. And then you need 3 dice to get over to deal with Stilgar. And you have 1 Ornithopter, 2, and then 3rd for an attack. So there's just enough for this to end on the final dice, with the Atreides player scheduled to win, including a Fade and Paul fight or not a Fade and Paul fight, an Emperor and Paul fight at one point. Like, this could be pretty thematic. We'll see how it plays out. I'm going to grab my coffee. Oh, no, I'm wrong. This is not the move and attack card. This is just place him in any legion. So yeah, we actually probably don't have enough to make this happen. All right. It's too early in the morning for me. All right, so we are done. We have I mean, you have to deploy, right? You deploy in Paul's category. I don't know. Maybe you worms. Maybe you worm sign. I mean, is there a world where you like Voice from Beyond and take this Harkonnen regular out and then threaten Haga Basin? He's got enough to move to reinforce. I really think Surge just needs one single red point. And he has to get it with family fleas. I don't see another way of doing it. Got about 10 minutes till work time here, so cautiously optimistic this will wrap up by then.